All right, hello everyone. Thank you very much for coming back to listen to me ramble on about how to save us. Um let's do it. So the typewriter noises here and these things, these titles here at the beginning are very much an homage, if you will, to Resident Evil, to the video games, because I always like that with the typewriter, like saving your progress. And it's really funny with these opening titles. There was a word spelled wrong. I think it was referred that nobody caught until like it had already played several festivals, won awards, all these things, and then someone was like, you spelled referred wrong. Anyway, fixed it for the release, but yeah, that was a pretty embarrassing little typo that nobody caught for way too long. It's an old picture of me, cracked. God, I was, who knows, 6 years old, 5 years old, I don't know, very young. And now we are coming into me at a hotel in Sydney that for our budget, we actually had to rent a hotel because I wanted a hotel that had like this Michael Mann kind of skyline for this scene. And in order to do that, we had to do a lot of research and make sure we got the right hotel, that went to the right viewpoint. Victoria Bitter there is we were actually sponsored by them for this movie. Dave Helmore, the producer, he hooked that up, which was rad. Probably the only movie I've ever officially been able to use a brand in, which is really funny to me. And if you know VB, it's the shit down under. And here we are out in the balcony, and I always love this kind of like no lighting, like awesome cityscape backgrounds from old Michael Mann movies, and now of course Christopher Nolan does it all the time. But this whole scene we had to ADR because the it was so loud outside the hotel room that there was just no way to record sound because when you're up that high in the city, all you hear is like. So we just kind of went with it and you know made it work as well as we could, as well as a low budget ADR works. I believe this phone prop. Luckily, there was a cordless phone in the hotel. Otherwise, this would have been a question mark. It's really interesting. I think this was the first thing we shot in Australia for the movie because we shot a couple days in America of things we need to do set wise before we came back to Australia. And then we shot this stuff in Sydney. We went to Tasmania for about 10 days. Then we came back to Australia and the mainland and shot more for a few days. I think all in total was about 16 days of shooting, all like in three different areas, two different continents. Like the whole thing was pretty ambitious, pretty wild. The How to Save Us notebook that we made for the movie. This is me just actually riding the train in Sydney. This was not really a reshoot, but additional photography. This title sequence here, we always had the book drawn up, but then we decided we need something to intercut with this title sequence that kind of helped explain like the rules and the horror and what was going on with the movie. That's me just walking around by the Sydney Harbor, like the Opera House and the Harbor Bridge and all that, like the classic Sydney postcard, which was pretty awesome. Making that notebook was a lot of fun. We did a lot of got some of that ink. I just smeared it around. It was a fun little art project. Yeah, we have Tori Letzler here doing the music. This was I think the first movie she scored, and she's amazing. But she does big, giant things now. Like she does like vocals for like Thor movies and you know American Horror Story and just massive, massive things. That oh, that's funny. That money roll there was actually we didn't have that kind of money, so we actually found fake money in one of the Sydney gift shops, and I wrapped that up. Those dollars are actually way bigger than regular dollar bills, but yeah, I think it sold. And I had to digitally alter the sign that I was looking at because that charter for hire sign did not exist. Here, this is just actually the ferry that you ride to go to Maria Island, which is towards the climax of the film. So we decided we'd get some shots there for the title sequence because, that boat is bitchin'. And the whole kind of concept and idea for this movie came about when Talea and I, now my wife, Talea Wickham, who's also a producer in this, we started dating and we had a 2 year, 2.5 years of just long distance back and forth. And on one of the trips when I came to Australia, she took me to Tasmania for a trip, for a vacation, and I just fell in love with the place, and I just always had this idea for this ghost apocalypse movie. And after visiting there, I was just so like haunted by the beautiful, awesome landscape. I just was kind of just writing the movie as I was traveling around in my head, and it was really cool to then come back a few months later and actually shoot that movie that I was inspired by. Now this is our actor Coy Jandreau, who is Sam, and this is Burrowing, which is a little private, like coastal cabin area that Talay's mums have a property at. And this, oh, we're back in Tasmania now. She's gonna jump all over the place. Yeah, Tasmania. This grave, I'll talk about this graveyard later. This was a pretty rad location. Back to burrowing. Just doing some fishing, you know. What people do when they're lost, you just go and have a fish. It's just so beautiful in Australia. It's really, you can quite literally just turn the camera on. It looks amazing. And that was the idea with this one is I knew we weren't going to have money for lighting. We weren't going to have money for this and that. And I'd kind of like learned quite a few things of what not to do and what actually works from my last few movies. And I think with this one, it got a lot more successful of just kind of using what you have and going with it as opposed to trying to write things that don't exist and you hope they show up. We built that little fire. We made that. It's a real campfire there on the beach. And we're like right when Koi got to Australia, we took that photo in a photo booth because we know we needed that prop. So that was fun going around it and looking for a bar that actually had one of those because you think they're everywhere until you need them. I think those stars in the sky are actually real. Yeah, back in the beach. Now this is like down like South Coast Australia, which is just gorgeous. I've actually been doing some shooting some additional photography for FP3 down there, and it's still just as pretty. Back in Tasmania. I always loved this idea for this opener, just kind of a thing where it's like, what happened if the apocalypse happened while you were just kind of out camping in the woods and you come back? And, obviously did a digital alteration of that sign. But yeah, just the idea of like you really wouldn't know if you're one of those people that backpacks and goes off the grid, even for like a week at this point. Like now with coronavirus, it's like imagine if you just went away for a week when that got crazy and you came back. Like it's pretty nuts what could happen, but it was fun to capture that here. And it's very easy to make Tasmania look deserted because it's a pretty sleepy place. Like it kind of closes at 3 in the afternoon. So as long as you just kind of aim to shoot around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, you can really kind of get away with whatever you want. And everyone's just so nice and pleasant down there. They're always ready to give you a helping hand. I remember one time we were stealing some footage somewhere and this lady just came out and we thought she was going to bust us because I guess we were in her front yard. We didn't realize her front yard was that big or long, but anyway, we're like, oh, here it comes. And she was like, oh, you guys want some apples? That's so amazing. Everyone's just so psyched that you're like showing people Australia. I did some doctoring the signs there. Evacuate now. We go on these shots will kind of mirror when Brian, myself, comes in looking for Sam later in the movie. And we were actually staying in this, they call them bungalows there at the time. These 2-story bungalows. So, I knew that if we were going to shoot something, we needed this place to be a location. I know there's a lot of places we can shoot around this location and you can stay there for super cheap. So I was like, we can house the 4-person film crew because we literally had a 4-person crew basically with actors and crew. And then we can shoot in the surrounding areas because generally like how I like to make my movies is I like to make the place you're staying for budgetary reasons also a location and to have easy access to other locations you'll shoot in the movie. It cuts down travel time. Also, when there's like 4 of you, you're always going to have like, oh, somebody forgot a battery, somebody forgot a piece of gear, a camera, or a prop. Okay, I'm going to walk 5 minutes back to our house and get it, or drive 5 minutes back. Like it's never too much of a drama. And that's definitely something I learned through experience over these movies. Yeah, and this little camera is actually like an infrared ghost camera, but this was an interesting thing because I actually shot this scene here with a completely different camera, but then shot the screen of that with the camera that he's looking at. So instead of like actually imposing it, I actually did this practical, and I did that with all the camera stuff in this movie. I would shoot an overlay of it, and so we could actually play the camera out practically because I always think that looks better when you could do it and plan ahead. And this scene obviously is just shot out in the jungle, or as they call it in Australia, the bush, out there, right outside the cabins. And I think that's me and Sarah, my sister, the costume designer, and Phil running with flashlights, whoever who, wasn't in it. That was because you're always using everybody. And when I make these movies, everyone has to be down with the idea that they're all going to be in it and kind of do a little bit of everything and be a jack of all trades. So with this, we just got out a leaf blower and just blew things around. For instance, we just cut, this is my brother and sister-in-law's old place in the bathroom there because we didn't have a makeup effects artist in Australia, so we figured we'd shoot anything with makeup effects in America. So it's like literally cutting back and forth between a continent in those 2 shots. Now this ghost here is just we had these kind of I guess they call them morph suits. The like so it's all like this gray suit. And we put these LEDs inside the mat, like in the mask, so they would just glow this white color. And they'd walk around. We'd shoot it in infrared and then tweak up the picture in post. But it's like it's mostly practical, just with trickery going on, which was a lot of fun. Boy, what a day, huh? This is back in Tasmania, where it just looks gorgeous. I remember a lot of people would ask me, like, "So what'd you guys do for the sky replacements in that movie?" I'm like, "You don't have to do anything down there, man. Like, it's beautiful." Now we had these whole, we had two versions of our costumes, like, and we had to have the ones that were aged with all of the ash on them because I didn't want to have to put ash on us as we went. I wanted the costumes to pretty much just go on so we could save time. And these shots here, I had to do crazy VFX stuff where basically I kept all these on a tripod so that way when there's anything moving in the background, which happens a lot, I could kind of freeze anywhere in the background that we weren't walking, so it looked like everything was deserted. Because even though it was pretty sleepy, like you'd get someone walking around in the background, or you'd get a car driving by or something. So in order to freeze that, I do a lot of still screens. So this we also had to find. There's a special sort of like hairspray stuff that, or like paint that just wipes right away, like you can wash it off, and we didn't want to deface public property, so that was something to think about. This is just a sleepy little church because there's churches and graveyards everywhere in Tasmania. So we just pulled over on the side of the road and went for it. Everything there just looks so amazing. It's like you're living in like this jungle western. It's really hard to describe, but like every 5 minutes you drive in a different, it looks like a completely different location, which really helped for our sort of movie where we had to have a lot of locations. And the ash that we actually put on our face is this, it's this beauty clay that you actually, it's actually amazing because you think it would be gross putting this stuff on your face all the time, but you actually, it's like kind of giving yourself like an amazing facial every day on set. So I'm glad we could actually find something like that that didn't just totally break us out and make us look gnarly. Yeah, and again, like this is just there's these buildings in Tasmania you can just walk into, and they're like, do whatever you want. It's so crazy there, like what you can get away with. Yeah, and so this is again like I would film it first with that camera, with the ghost there, and then I would press play on that, like on that clip, and have him fake the motion, like he was actually panning over it again, and then bam, you have a ghost in screen that wasn't actually there, and that was a way to do it practically and quickly that just was surefire. This is always interesting, putting up a tent with like ash in strange places. Sometimes, you'd get the random person to be like, "What are you doing?" And you're like, "Well, I remember that static TV was actually just going when we walked by, and we're like, how do we not shoot this? Like, how does it get more Silent Hill than that?" It was so amazing in this movie because a lot of this we would just be driving around looking for pretty places, and I kind of wrote it in a way knowing how pretty it was, and like that this whole movie was kind of like it's just a string of scenes that like string together montages. So I knew there'd be a lot of montages, so there was always something for us to just pull over and shoot, and we would just stay in costume all day, and we were kind of always on. You never knew what you were going to get, what you were going to grab at that point. And now here I am, coming back to the scene of the crime, investigating what happened to the brother. Yeah, so all the static shots in this movie are based on survival horror games from like the PS1 era. That was my vibe with how I wanted to direct this. I always wanted to make it look like the characters were being watched through like surveillance angles, which I really enjoyed in survival horror games. And they kind of like force your eye to certain places, and you can have a lot going on in the frame and play with a lot of things. But then I also like to use that stillness against the audience, so where when the ghosts show up is the only time the camera can move, and that's when things shake, and I wanted that to be disorienting to, add to the fear or the horror, if you will. Or we just kind of had to like take all the trash in the that we had accumulated and throw it all over the place to try to make it look like, something ghostly happened here. Yeah, the landscapes over there in Tasmania are just incredible. Like this is just pulling off the side of the road and being like, oh wow, we can see off in the distance forever. Let's shoot this part of the scene here. And the idea with the music going around, it's like public domain, old crazy music, but it's that there's like ghost radio waves that are from different times splitting through reality and through the dimensions and whatnot. And remember, this scene almost got cut out of the movie, but I really enjoyed it, so I kept it in. The scene was a little hard because when you have to fly over somewhere, you have to bring all of your props, all of your costumes, everything in the suitcases of three people, which doesn't really give you a lot of wiggle room. So we didn't have enough room to add in like stuff for a birthday party. So we had to go like scour around and find like basically Tasmania's equivalent of a 99-cent store to find like late night the day before the shoot to find like birthday party decorations so we could like wrap presents and put balloons up and kind of make this scene what it was written as. And that was pretty tricky in Tasmania, but we found it, we figured it out, thought that would work, and we did it. And the car that's coming up here that's like the birthday present car is actually the rental car that we used to drive around when we were in Tasmania. And, what I like to tell people making low budget movies is that nothing can be wasted. Everything has a second use. Everything you're using practically should also be used on screen because you don't have any spare money or spare time. And yeah, Sarah did a rad job in these costumes. And someone she used to work with, Tom, he did an awesome job aging these two, and they look incredible. Remember, it was hard to get this TV to actually do the static that we wanted, but just yeah, no, we just literally pulled the plug out of the wall, and that was that. A lot of off-screen effects in this one. Ah, Tasmania, it's so crazy. Like the stars there are just out of control. This is the loneliest birthday ever. I'm surprised he's still eating the cake. I mean, I guess this only happened like a couple months ago. I guess the cake's still good, huh? Sugar, maybe? Yeah, this is interesting. This is something that wasn't actually in the initial script. There was a flashback scene on the radios like we had before, but we just kind of realized that we were getting doubled up on that sort of vibe, and I really wanted to do there's a game show announcer in Silent Hill 2 when you get trapped in the elevator in the hospital, and I really wanted to inject a lot of that into the movie, and I thought this was a good point to set that up before the finale of the movie, because I always thought that was like one of my favorite creepy scenes in that game. Just man his road, lots of walking. It's so funny. We just pull the car over, set up the tripod, and be like, "Get out and walk." I think that bridge back there is actually called the Batman Bridge, and once I found that out, we're like, we have to shoot here. No ifs, ands, or buts. And we're back to burrowing now. This isn't Tasmania. And back to Batman Bridge. The amount of times we had to build that tent, like I made sure that we got a tent that was very easy to build because I knew it was going to be going up and down quite a bit with this movie, driving places, putting it up. It's so wild there too. There's just all these things that are just like kind of deserted. I guess they use them once a week, and why not? VB, we're back at it. It's sponsored. The old man and his frisbee routine. I wonder where we even bought that frisbee in Australia. He's got a lot to write in that. It's funny, you can actually see the tripod blowing in the wind because it was very windy that time of the year. Man and his apple. Yeah, this was the scene I was talking about that was in someone's front yard. Like, you would look at this, you're like, is this your front yard? And I guess it is, but she gave us some apples, and that was the apple he was eating. It was very nice. She's like, we just had the apples are blooming. Have some. Sure. And then so we'd always have to like go and like pour this ash out. We had to bring a bunch of ash with us, but obviously not too much because we had a weight limitation in our suitcases to actually ash up the any circles we came up on. No, no, don't cross the line. So this was supposed to set up that it's a very serious measure to stay within the ash because they will come for you quite quickly. It's actually me pulling Koi there from off frame, and he pulls himself in the wide, and I'm pulling him in the close, and camera's shaking, and we're back. All good. And now I'll be returning to this location. We'll have stripped the tent away and left the circle. Actually, as the day was going and we were shooting, the water was coming up. It was becoming high tide, so it actually made it look, like it was later than it was, which is really cool. Same deal here. Like, I'm sure there were people and cars and stuff walking all around here, and you just have to like freeze frame the sides as anyone enters and make it look like no one's there. It was a pretty cool thing to do. I was really excited with learning that. It's kind of like matte painting-y, but not as flashy. So yeah, every time we would do like the locations with Koi, then we'd have me come in afterwards and do the same thing again, looking for him. Save time on the setups. Yeah, I think this is the same place when Koi went and walked down to the house, except we just tilted the camera up a little bit and made it look a little bit different, and here we are. Classic safe spray paint. I'm sure that still applies. Was that the plug for like the DVD player instead of the TV to make it look like the TV is unplugged? Nice one. VB and some cake, man. Just checking out in the kitchen floor instead of like weird dude doesn't put ash around the couch. I would have put ash around the couch and slept there instead, but you know, I'm not the boss. Oh yeah, having to find like the ice cream cone like key thing too as well at a store like in Tasmania was a whole deal. We brought that with us, the voice recorder, like the key hero props we'd bring with us, but I knew we just didn't have the space or weight requirement in our suitcases to actually bring some of the things that we needed, so we just kind of had to like buy them on the run and see what happened. So like when I wrote things, I wrote them to where it didn't necessarily have to be one thing in particular, but just as long as it's something like, this, like X, it would work out. And there's some wallabies bouncing by. Got to bring those ducks out for all you FP fans out there. Can't be too bad if the ducks are back. Ducks are they kill it in the Ghost Apocalypse. And this was just dolphins. We saw dolphins just swimming out there, like right offshore. And we're like, well, I guess we have to shoot that now. I mean, this is what happens when you shoot in Australia, and especially this type of movie. And I knew that I'd been there enough to know like how magical the place is to where there's just so much that you can always shoot. You kind of just become like a nature photographer. And I wrote that into the story for sure when before we did this. Here we are coming back to the scene of the crime. Handy ghost camera. Yeah, we used this thing a lot more than I thought we would. I remember I thought we'll use this for one shot. Is it really going to be worth like the 200 bucks it is or whatever? And I think so. Sure enough. We used the hell out of that thing on this shoot for a lot of the gags. Gotta love those wind up radios. The radio obviously being a callback to Silent Hill games where if the radio goes off, you're not safe and that there's something here. That was the idea with this, that the radio can catch them and alert you to their presence. Ooh, there's Tele out in the back window. Oh, and bam, you got hit with a leaf blower. We had to actually buy a leaf blower there. I think we didn't have much to buy one. We had to buy one and then return it because we didn't have enough money to keep it. And where were we going to take it? We couldn't take it home with us. Like, you also can't fit a leaf blower in your luggage. Just blasted out the last of his ash. God, there's so many times we would just have to keep like crumpled up pieces of newspaper with us just so we could blow them around with the leaf blower to make the ghost effect. I think that necklace is actually something something my mom made. And that was important for me to put in there as that. Some emotional context. I believe it's either me or Talay, or actually it's probably it's my sister. Yeah, Sarah I think was the majority of the ghosts, just because she is tall and slender, and it looks creepy when she has those morph suits on her. She's a ghost person as well. Yeah, this was hard to get the. I wish we had drones at the time. It says "I'm alive, are you?" But we couldn't get high enough to really get that angle. And if we had a drone now, we just throw that in there and do a static shot. But this was pre-drone. Shoot, we've done a couple things a little bit differently. Had we had that, it made some of these static shots a little easier. 'Cause, you can't really get that high, and you're not going to like carry a giant ladder down to the beach when there's three of you. Because it's like a 20-minute hike to get down to this beach. We shot a lot of different things down here throughout the movie. I think this is actually back in America in Phil's grip shop. Phil, our DP. Because these things, I'm like, God, all these props, I'm not bringing these with us to Australia. Let's shoot this in America. There's no way I'm taking all that. Yeah, I like that I get the abridged version in the How to Save Us notebook. Poor Sam had to read all these books and take notes. Yeah, we applied all of this makeup ourselves. Our makeup artist on this one, Cece, she told us how to, or instructed us. She did like a test and did it for us and kind of like made us kind of participate while she was doing it so we could learn how to apply it to ourselves in the go. So whenever Coy and I are ashed up in the movie, we've applied our own makeup because, we didn't have the money or the space or anything to really take any sort of crew with us on this one. And it was really hard in this to actually keep lights because electricity, the whole thing was the electricity was off. So keeping lights out of the background was always really hard in this movie, especially when we'd shoot things towards sunset that looked amazing. Like it was always hard to keep some distant light out of there. Here we are just parked in the car, probably outside of where we were staying, which by the way, the birthday house we went to, that's where we were staying in Tasmania. Again, using your locations. This is another location, which is the inside of a rental car outside of where we're staying. Everything's blacked out, and here I found the Winston Churchill speech from World War II. Wanted that to come in because it's a pretty well-known thing just to explore what's going on with the ghost radio waves. And this was an idea I had because I really wanted to get out this story in the flashbacks in the movie, but I didn't want to show flashbacks, so I really wanted to set up and play with the ghost radio that I could do things, and kind of the radio itself was its own entity. And I thought this was a fun way to kind of play with it. And if you like survival horror games, like this whole movie is just kind of it's my homage to, you know, survival horror video games. And a lot of times, like they play, like while the game's going, you kind of hear the story and it's happening like simultaneously. And it's always very personal because we are one player playing. And it's tricky in a movie to try to make something to where you're getting story out when there's only one character on screen. And people just talking to themselves never really, I don't know, it always kind of comes off pretty hokey in movies, so we had to find another way to make that kind of interesting and tie it in with the entities themselves. Oh, radios are out. Must be ghost time. We've got another fine cameo from Sarah Trost coming up. I think someone just pulled the door open from outside. Oh, and again. This is a classic. Oh, can't remember who pulled me out of that one. Maybe it was Coy. Probably. Or maybe I even pulled myself out. I don't know. I usually like that. And here comes Sarah. Boom. And again, we filmed that first and then played it back on my camera, and then I reacted to it live as it was happening and faked the motion again. and then shot that exterior of the car somewhere else that wasn't right at our, lodging for the night. Here we are back in burrowing in the bush. This scene always reminds me of Predator, unintentionally, just because of the way like the leaves and the trees and everything are moving and going through, and there being some sort of creature, entity, whatnot out there. And I like the idea of doing something spooky in the daytime to where it's like they don't just come out at night, they're always just there silently watching and waiting for you. And if there's two there, chances are that that is Sarah and Talay. Yeah, there's two. Weird little morph costume creatures, ghosties. You gotta refresh, man. It's like putting on deodorant. You gotta keep it up all day. If you don't, people can start smelling you. It's funny. I remember when writing this, I was like, well, it's great to keep using this ash, but unless he has like a giant like duffel bag in his back, we're gonna have to keep like, how does he get more ash? And then I was like, oh yeah, of course, you got to keep going to graveyards and digging up bodies and burning them and reashing. And I thought that was a fun like video game like thing. Like you have to resupply your survival hardware, your gadgets. It was funny. This was dicey. I mean, thank God that no one was here at this graveyard for the most part, because having to like just fucking hit the ground with a shovel in a graveyard at a grave was it's pretty gnarly. We did it gently and respectfully, but it was still pretty intense. And this is a skeleton we just had, and this was back in America because we had to just do this. I always wanted this shot because we had this skeleton, and I wasn't going to be able to take that to Australia. So, sure enough, we went up to Pine Mountain Club, after our usual stomping grounds in Fraser. And yeah, at that graveyard, it was interesting because there was a caretaker, and he showed up like 5 minutes after we put that shovel on the ground. Thank God. Yeah, we had to get like dog bones and things like that for like things from the store that would actually like rip and tear the way old bones would. This was an interesting prop to try to acquire to get something that looked and felt like it could pass for human bones. Now this is in Phil's grip shop here, just doing the campfire, making that our set because and then back in America because I'm like, I have no idea where we're going to have a skeleton or a fire or anything like that in Australia. So we might as well just take care of this in our 3-day pre-shoot before we take the plunge to Australia. I think that's some like that's a dummy. That's like a rubber skull that we got and then burnt that just for that shot, which, rubber shit never burns like anything else does. You have to cut away pretty quick and hope for the best. And that is how he replenishes his Ghost Begone juice. Here I am doing my ghost re-up for the morning, having my ash shower. Can't leave home without it. Okay, we were always so dusty at the end of this. It was awesome. Yeah, this was one of those scenes where it's like I'm like, if we're gonna get pinched for anything for stealing locations, is gonna be when I have jumper cables like hooked up to a gas tank doing this shit, looking like a cartoon like comic bandit. And sure enough, people just drive by and wave, and you're just like, what is this magical place? Because I looked like a psycho doing this. Because those were just we just got like 2 pairs of jumper cables and we like stripped one end of them and like looped them around the back and hit them there. And it's interesting in Australia. Fun fact: they actually don't charge you for gas until after you've filled up. Which in America, I'm like, God, someone would take advantage of that in a second. Not here. And a road trip across Tasmania, stopping off in a church. I believe this is where Sam was earlier with his radio way back when. And this place is just open. You just pull over on the side of the road and there's just a church open. It's like, come pay your respects, whatever. And it's beautifully kept up and it's such a magical place. There's our graveyard set for the day. We had this awesome graveyard and we were just like, well, let's get all of our graveyardy stuff done here throughout the movie. I remember doing this and we had to cut away earlier because I was like, wow, it takes a lot of ash to actually do a circle around a full car. And I found that out like right when I cut away is when I ran out of ash in that canteen. So, spoiler alert, that might not be factual, how much ash is in those canteens. Back in the car, recording my findings. It's really interesting. The first idea I had for this movie before I went to Tasmania was it was going to be kind of like a found footage first person video about the last person on Earth, essentially, just trying to survive through this apocalypse. And they keep uploading their videos to this like ghost internet or something that's happening. And that was going to be pretty wild. It was like a first person survival horror thing. But then I went to Tasmania. I was like, nah, fuck that. Let's make this a real movie. And I think its original title was like Last or something stupid like that. And I'm really glad I went to Tasmania and fleshed this idea out some more because I really enjoy where this went. I think out of all of my serious movies, this is my favorite world, and I would like to revisit it someday. Oh, man shaving. I think Coy's probably losing it at this point. This is the first time he had ever left America, so I remember having to be gentle with him about just he was going through a lot, having left the country and going somewhere, and it was a bit tricky. It was a bit hard on him. So we got there. He had a good time in the end. Here he's learning how to fish. We actually had to buy that fish from the store because there was no way Koi was going to catch a fish out there. I remember this was so funny. Like this is actually it should have been like a really good fish, and he was like so grossed out and disgusted by this. Like he couldn't. It was like it took a lot to work him up to the scene. I'm like, dude, you're eating a fish. Yeah, back there, our only lighting we had a couple flashlights, and we just put them on some of the back cliffs back there to make it not totally disappear in the dark. And that was our big lighting package for the movie. A couple flashlights. Ooh, Talay Wickham back on the radio as Molly. Yeah, we had to go out somewhere on the beach. We built that whole fire pit and made the fire happen. It was kind of like surviving yourself a bit on this movie at times because you just had to like haul everything in. We all had a backpack on that had something different. Phil would have camera stuff. I'd have a bunch of props. Other people would have all the waters because we have to like eat and drink stuff all day. So it's amazing what you have to just like carry in with you and load into the site. You hike 30 minutes in, you shoot your movie, and then you hike out. It's a wild experience. All while you're in costume and in makeup because there aren't any mirrors down there. Radio firelight coverage is killing it. You can really see all the aging we did to it. Yeah, that radio is definitely brand new. We bought it from like Walmart or something, and then just aged the hell out of it before we did bring that with us from America. Like any of those hero props came along, because there's no way I was gonna be able to make a radio that looked that cool in like 2 days in Tasmania. Definitely a real beer, because YOLO. Back on the seaside. This dock was insane. I'm surprised that thing didn't fall apart when Coy walked out there on it. Like that was it very clearly enforced our coverage. We were going to shoot with this once he walked on it and the thing was like kind of shaking. We're like, yeah, camera's not going on here. We're not putting three bodies on this thing. He delicately got up and tiptoed away, and no one was the wiser. Poor Coy. There was definitely a few takes of this where it's like we made him set up the entire tent because we were going to do like a time lapse thing or something that we never did, and he had to set up and break down that tent several times. Now for this, we rented a kayak for like an hour or two. We had a cheap kayak rental, and we could just row around a river, and this river kind of went out somewhere almost by the ocean. So we kind of like had to fake this a lot. And like that, we're framing it, making it look like maybe he's going out towards the ocean, which he's not. There's just like, a cliff there. And then this is him. I had to actually just take a piece of him and insert it down there into the water exterior in Mariah Island to make it look like he was actually kayaking in there. And then we found something that looked like a beach near and down this little river, and we had him pull up this. And then now he's all the way in Mariah Island. So like there's a bunch of times in this movie from like in coverage from one side to the other, we like go hundreds, if not thousands of miles away just to try to like link things up from what we knew we had at our disposal. It was a very mathematical process making this movie. And then he walks away into the distance. Evacuate from Tasmania at all costs. Oh yeah, that was me, wasn't it? It was my voice in post. I'm like, this scene's missing something. Back in the jungles of burrowing here, following the same path that Sam went through. They definitely shot this at the same time as the Sam stuff, and really just went for it. Like the jungle looks so crazy in infrared. I really love this stuff. And so this is the outside of like that graveyard we shoot a lot of stuff at. And here we are at that graveyard. So yeah, we did like a whole day at this graveyard and just kind of tried to pick away anything that we had in the movie that had graveyard pieces. Oh yeah, we're back in our American location at Phil's Grip Shop, playing it off like it's some sort of warehouse or something, store or something or other in Tasmania. And they get a bunch of electronics and kind of build a little half set here. I think this was my first day, like putting on the makeup and everything like that. This might have been the first day of shooting. I can't remember. This is definitely very early on. Those are some real sparks. Really getting that thing going. I wasn't quite as experienced in VFX back on this one, so I didn't really know how to fake that quite yet. And this is the upstairs of Phil's grip shop. He had like one of the grips there was like working on bicycles and all this stuff, so all this weird, crazy stuff up there. So we really didn't have to do a whole lot to this set. We just kind of found it, and I grabbed a soldering gun and just went to work on some stuff and did some impossible science. I love putting those are all my old like Nintendo 64 controllers and stuff like that. I love peppering video game props in the background of my movies when I can. And if you've seen my movies, you'll notice that's all my collection. Oh man, so this power glove, I remember this came in late in the game, and I was like, how are we gonna make this ghost gauntlet, ghost glove in the script? Like, what can I do? We have no money. How are we gonna make something cool enough? Like, 3D printing wasn't as cool yet, and I was like, fuck, what do we do? I was like, I got the grand idea one night to get a power glove, and I was like, okay, great, this should be easy enough. Then I had to get one on eBay, and I was like, oh man, this is gonna break the bank. It's like $70 on eBay. That's an expensive prop. And then so I bit the bullet and got one. And then like I was waiting for the tracking, and it was like a month before we were going to start shooting, and I was like, where the hell is this thing? It's like 2 weeks out, and I had to order another one because I was like, this thing's supposed to be here, and I was like talking to the guy, and I was like, where is this thing? I don't know what's happening. Then to find out a week later, someone had taken the package from my sister's apartment, took it downstairs, punched a hole through it, saw that there was a power glove in it, and then tossed it away. So we found this package just discarded a week later under the apartment because someone ripped it open and was like, a power glove, fuck this, and left it there. So then we had 2 gloves. It was great. Yeah, I think that was like actually our one like comp. We had to like comp in the ghost on green screen back there because there was no way in hell we were going to get that ghost in a highly active parking garage at the end of the day. The name of the game when you're making these movies is you never want to like attract too much suspicion. Like, a little bit's fine, but be able to like jump in the car and drive away fast. Classic impossible science. If things are turned off and you hit them with EMP, they don't die, right? I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, it's so cool when you have this like makeup and all this crap in your hair and like your costume like this. You can really shoot anywhere and things just look awesome. Like the texture that we had on us all the time was really cool. It turned out a lot cooler even than I expected. I think that's me on Mariah Island looking at what's supposed to be Mariah Island, but that's the mainland. But we were on Mariah Island. We found this bitch and shot, and we're like, well, I guess we'll scratch that one off the list here. There's so much cheating in this movie. It's just kind of unreal. Same kayak, that Coy used earlier in the movie. Same shots, because we didn't have time to set up more. And then me again, rowing in, same way like Coy did, but I'm back on the mainland and I superimposed that in there. This also isn't on Mariah Island here. This is where the kayak was, these shots. But then I'm going to step about 100 miles the other direction into that coverage. Classic. It was always funny if you could just see Coy and I just standing around these costumes, just waiting to like walk through scenes in the same shots. It was a really funny dance we had to do. Oh yeah, and this is just like a graveyard that's on Mariah Island. And I was like, this is amazing. So Mariah Island's like this old, like it was like a prison island. Like so, because Tasmania was the prison island of the prison island of Australia, and then Mariah Island was like the worst prison island. But now you can go there and like, there's no electricity on the island, but it's got all these awesome structures and old ancient stuff, and you can camp there. You can ride bicycles around. It's just kind of like a free for all there, and it's really awesome. So I remember going there with Talay years and years ago when I developed the idea for this. And I was like, you can just walk around here and no one's here. Like nobody cares. I could just shoot a movie here. And she's like, yeah, I guess. And then that's when I really started thinking about this movie. I was like, how can this be possible? This is so cool. Like all this stuff is just sitting there on the island. You have to like bring all your trash in. That ferry that I was on earlier in the movie, you have to bring all your stuff in, you bring all your stuff out. So you bring any food or water you want in with you, and then you bring the trash out with you. There's no trash cans on the island. It's pretty intense. So like the hiking around on this island for all these shots was intense with all of our backpacks and camera gear, and we're definitely in good shape at the end of this movie from all that hiking and backpacking all of us had to do. Back in Burwang, because there's this awesome lookout with the sunset there that I knew from going there last time when I was in Australia. They were like, "Oh, we got to capture this. This place is the best. This is our, our thin red line moment, I guess." And this is my best Sean Penn. And again, I think this was another like overlap of another flashback again, but then when I was in editing, made it the game show host because I really wanted to set him up more for, or it rather, up for the finale. And also, the welcome mat has been laid out. Yeah, it was that voice too, wasn't I? I always forget how many voices I do in these movies. It's the great part about being the editor. You just kind of have to, roll with it. Yeah, this is on Mariah Island too. Just so many crazy structures. Like you could shoot a whole post-apocalypse movie there, and it would be fantastic. You wouldn't have to do a thing. Yeah, you always feel like an idiot doing these scenes. You're just like talking to yourself and running around like this. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, so this scene here at the river, this was actually back on the mainland of Tasmania because we found this awesome river one day driving by over in like the part of Tasmania that looks like Fern Gully, and it was just so rad. But then because of it, there is there's a creek right there, and it looks super awesome, and all this is really rad. But because there's a creek right there, and anyone who knows about recording sound means I had to ADR this entire scene, which was a lot of fun because ADRing emotional stuff is always a bit tricky. And I think we did as best we could with this scene. And just doing some pretend CPR on him because that's how it works. Just push the chest a few times. It brings him back anytime. So, as originally written with this movie, the idea was going to be that the first half of the movie entirely would just be Sam's journey. And then when he walked away, I would start in the hotel room, and then the movie picks up like that because it was the idea being something like either Resident Evil 2 or Resident Evil Code Veronica where that happened, where you play one character for the first half of the game and then you play the second character for the second half, and it kind of you get the full story from the two different perspectives. But then when we were cutting it together, it was kind of crazy. The pace didn't really there wasn't a pace. Like, we needed to have it feel like something was happening more than just someone wandering around in the wilderness. But it was a fun idea. I'll bring that idea back someday. Long day down the bush, talking to the ghost radio. Classic. All right, I'm gonna go grab myself another drink during all this emotional stuff. You guys, enjoy. All right, still fixing myself a drink here, but This was interesting. I had to basically wrapped everyone else out, and I just grabbed a camera and went down into the woods by myself to record this, Blair Witch Project style, like crying at the camera crap down there. And it was, yeah, I think I did like maybe 2 takes of it. You know, nailed it because I had no time and I was really hungry and had to go home. And that's probably why I'm crying because I'm so hungry. But yeah, that was this scene, and we had to like put like a sharpening filter on it because of course I fucked up the focus because I was, focusing on acting instead of holding the camera properly. And there was no DP, there was no one here. I just did this all myself. And when you do it all yourself, sometimes it's not in focus. That's just the way it goes. Oh man, nose snot. That's how you know you're doing it. There's tears coming down from the eye patch, and you got nose snot. You're killing it. Jesus. Um, yeah, I really like this song that Tori did here. Her vocals are awesome. Like it was really great having her involved with this. I remember I heard some of her. I was actually using some of her music as temp music because there was the game Beyond Two Souls that I really loved that was part of an inspiration for this, and she did the vocals on the music for that. And I was just friends with Tori. We'd go to like the same parties and things, and she was like, "Please let me score your next movie." And I was like, okay, sure. What do you? Let me hear some samples. And then she like literally played me some of the music that I was listening to write the movie and from Beyond Two Souls. I was like, "Get out of here! All right, fine, you got the job." Um, oh god, yeah, this cave was great. This just exists. They're in Tasmania. It's just there hanging out. It's a bat cave. You pull over the side of the road. It's not even like marked or anything really. Like you see like there's like a little cardboard sign with an arrow going left that just says cave. That's about it. It's so incredible. Like I couldn't tell you how to get back to this cave. No, going into the nowhere, into the portal. Don't go towards the light, Brian. Don't go towards the light. All right, here we are in the nowhere. Now, I had to write the welcome to nowhere back there with like some chalk or something that we had. And this lantern's one of the only light sources we had down there. Because you have to hike like 20 minutes down into this old abandoned Boy Scout camp in up in Pine Mountain Club. That is, I've used this a couple times. This was also in my movie All Superheroes Must Die, but we didn't use the pool. The pool area is pretty gnarly. Like it just keeps acquiring more trash over the years and water. And I always knew that this would be the place to shoot the nowhere stuff because it just looks so creepy and crazy. It's this old abandoned Boy Scout camp from like the 60s, and it just every year it just ages itself more and more and more, going through like winters, and it just gets more and more dilapidated. More people just go in there and just like tag it up and make it crazier. So it's kind of like this living, breathing set that just gets creepier and creepier as time goes. And we just kind of made this our Silent Hill Other Side ending because it required the least amount of work and had the look. That, of course, is a sign that I made, and we shot a close-up insert of to pretend like that's what that was. But you do what you can. And now here we are back into the Boy Scout camp, and all these like mattresses and all this stuff, like it's all just there and all flipped over and crazy, and everything's broken up, and had to get Koi all made up and bring him down here. I think this was only like our second day of shooting in America, like the two of three, and it was so cold that night. I remember hiking down there. Again, chalked some of that in the wall. Just brought some chalk down because that's what everyone else does there. And there's all these little outbuildings there, and you kind of like can climb your way through this place, and definitely wear your boots and some gloves if you can, because I'm sure there's like tetanus and God knows what. But it's a wild place. I recommend it. Oh, back in Tasmania. Look at that. At that graveyard I was talking about. And this is the point where we met like the caretaker there, and he was a super nice guy. And I'm glad we met him after we put a shovel into the ground. But he was super cool. Just watched us do it. He was very interested in what we were doing. I think on this headstone here, I had to do some like photoshopping to make it kind of make some sort of sense for what the movie needed. Because obviously a headstone wouldn't have what we needed. Like this streak filter we put on the camera on the other world to really give things a sci-fi ghostly world look. Now the necklace is back. Do some impossible science and insert it into your power glove, man. Will you combine the items? Anyone who plays survival horror games will get that joke. I mean, isn't that what gone means? Come on, Mom. Yeah, in the background of, especially when I was walking through the Boy Scout camp, there's all kinds of whispers and hushed things of people kind of like that idea in hell of everyone just being like, I don't want to be here. I'm dead. Help me. So if you like really listen into the background, we did a lot of different voices in the background. It's really buried down here. I was what would had to be a split screen actually with Koi and I in different sides of the frame just because of how like the lighting was working there. Because my light would cast like a crazy shadow on him that just wasn't working for us. So that was a crazy split screen shot. Ooh, I get a flashback. Nice. Sam's been that's some of our ash dust there that we used for a handprint. It's always classic. I do appreciate that these ghosts went to the length to make everything like a book on tape. Like this is the Audible for ghosts. They don't make you read these long-winded journals. It's always the thing in these survival horror games. I feel like they're getting crazier and crazier these days to where it used to be like you'll read like one or two pages of something. You'll open up these documents now in these games and it's like a fucking novel to read. And it's like, look, man, I like that as much as the next guy, but if there's this much information, tell it to me while something else is going on. This is insane. Like, it's always the time, like, my wife Talia loves watching survival horror games, but that's always the moment that kills her. It's like, okay, sorry, I've got to read 5 pages of a document that's really important to the story. And that's it, you lose them. Yeah, that sign, I think that we did that outside of Phil's Grip Garage. We're coming back where we know. Yeah, we're going to my brother and my sister-in-law's old house again because they were out of town for a week or two, and they needed us to watch the cat. So we're like, great, we have a set. We made that. We found that post office that little mailbox, and we banged it up and aged it down and put Everett on there, and here we are. Post that up in the corner frame. That's their house. This is, the idea being that this is the family home. Got acquiring all this stuff too is the whole thing. So much time acquiring all these things, like especially in the kitchen when there's like all the trash and the booze bottles. That took a while to kind of get everything sorted out. It was really funny on set. If you heard the production sound, we actually had a crew member on this one, grip friend of Phil's, and he was reading out all of the what the game show host would be telling me, and his delivery of it was so funny. I remember him reading it halfway through the first day, and you're like, "What the fuck is this? This is Jesus. This is dark. What's wrong with you?" And I was like, "Yeah, don't worry about it. It'll all make sense later." But he was having a good time finding these mannequins. Now this was tough. I always find mannequins creepy, and this was back. Mannequins, they got a lot easier to find in recent years, and you can get them on Amazon and stuff now. But then we had to drive all over the city. We had to go to like Lancaster to get some. Like it was such a wild goose chase finding all of these mannequins. And then Sarah got to go and dress them up, which she loves, and this was a lot of fun to put together. Actually, this is probably one of my favorite things to put together, just because I'm a huge Silent Hill fan. So getting to play in that kind of space at all was really exciting. This is definitely my favorite sequence of the movie. Oh God, that's really funny. Not that that is a picture of Koi, and that's supposed to be Koi and the mannequin over there. My brother now has a kid, so my nephew Johnny, and he looks just like that mannequin back there, and that would have been his bedroom had they still lived in that house. So that's a little spooky in retrospect. Oh, little Molly's room. Honey, you might want to back up from the TV a little bit. Yeah, me channeling my Mark Hamill here for my Mark Hamill Joker for the voice. Brian's a dick. And then, of course, this was the other hard one to find because I wanted Brian to be the faceless mannequin because he's still he doesn't really have a face. He's always pretending. And that was a hard one to find back then. It was one of those things that's tricky being that particular. I had to dig up a bunch of old photos of me. Those are always hard to find with my past. Oh, wow, I'm really going Mark Hamill on this. Jesus, I did not remember that. Just talking to myself here with crazy voices. It's just like what it's like to live inside of my head. Apparently, these scenes. Remember, we shot all this stuff like in one night, obviously, because that's how it goes in this. But there was this creepy basement there that's coming up. That was just like the stairs just went down, and there was like a water heater, and that was it. It was like such a murder basement, which is really rare for LA to have a murder basement. Not a lot of basements in LA, and that's where we're going to, I think, right after this. But then, like out in the garage, that set coming up. I'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah, so literally this basement just kind of ends right there. Like you go left, and there's a water heater, and that's it. It's really creepy. And in the kitchen, like it's such a strange area, but looked great for a movie, and you need classic basement shots. And so this sort of thing. Spoiler alert: I was inspired by this from the ending of Silent Hill 2. I won't say any more than that, but this was definitely where this sort of twist, if you will, came from. Because I always like exploring the ideas of like what actually makes a bad person. Like if a good person does something bad for the right reason, are they still bad? Like, and I think those are the sort of things that everyone wrestles with. So I always like exploring those sort of things with characters because I really don't think, and especially the older I get, that anything in this world is black and white. So it's just a lot more interesting for me to play with something like that as opposed to like you're just bad. Like I've never understood that with bad guys. Like I'm just bad because I like there to be actual reasons. Because I don't think anyone wakes up one day and says they want to be bad. And here we are looking up at Daddy's room. Oof. You never want to go to Daddy's room in these games, man. I swear to God, every time you have to go to a Daddy's room or something in one of these survival horror games, you know, like the shit's about to hit the fan. And general rule of thumb, like always go up before you go down when you're clearing a house in one of those games because the further down you go, the further the shit gets. Oh man. So finding all of these TVs was pretty crazy. Some of them are left over actually from All Superheroes Must Die. Funny enough, we had all these TVs left over from that we didn't break. Some of them worked, some of them didn't. But then we had to just get our hands on us. You know, again, it's just asking, does anyone have any tube TVs? And back then, like some people still had some. I'm sure we reused some from the other shot to this shot because there's no way we had this many tube TVs. But it's this is really funny to me. There's my mom mannequin back there. It's really funny to me because this creature thing here for the dad ghost entity is actually, I think it's, I might be getting this wrong, but I was told at least that it was a background like creature from one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies that was just thrown out in a dumpster, and Phil, our DP, actually found it with some of his buddies in a dumpster because there was a studio dumpster near where his shop was, his grip shop. So they just find all this cool shit in there, and we found that in there, and we're like, well, great, that's the fucking end monster. So we just did a little bit to it and fucked it up a little bit and made it our own, but the base of that was just a trash Pirates of the Caribbean 2 creature. And I remember in this scene, we actually shot the whole thing word for word with dialogue with Koi made up super strange, so that it would like be cutting back and forth with him and in and out, and it just wasn't working. It kind of was a little bit hokey, so we just stuck with the man in suit creature for the percentage of this. I think you see a little flash of Koi at the end in it, but it just didn't quite work when I started cutting it together. This is our big makeup effects day. I believe we shot the thing with the dead girl in the bathtub this day as well, just because it was all right there and we could get the makeup artist in and out one day. Those LED lights popped into that thing. They're always a classic. It just like it reminds me of something like out of John Carpenter's The Fog, this creature at the end. That's why I really enjoyed it. Oh, our one curse word. Boom. So we finally got a light gag for this one. So that make it go all Iron Man. Now we're allegedly sucking the creature out of Sam. That's the idea here. Oh, wow. Yeah, this light gag was cool. I had like a cord stretching up through my costume into my glove and all this and that. And it was a super bright light that would just come out of the palm like Iron Man and just kind of shake your arm and make it feel like something's happening. And there you go. And here we're coming back. We're back in Tasmania after that long, horrific nightmare into America. We are home. Yeah, you can really see all the shit we're putting on our face in that close up, huh? Oh, that's really funny. That's actually Ryan Gibson on that radio, who is a Quackajack's in FP2. He's also the psychiatrist in All Superheroes Must Die 2, and he's in FP3 and 4 as well. He's an old friend. That's funny. I forgot that I had him be like the one Australian voice on the radio. authentic. Oh, yeah, I love this song so much. This is a song that an artist that's a friend of a friend, Zach Kimball, he made, and I always fell in love with this song, and it was a song that for whatever reason he didn't care about that much, or I don't know, and I asked him, fully expecting him to say no, if we could use this for the end of the movie, and then he said yes. I was like, oh my god, are you kidding? Like, I was stoked. This is the perfect song to end this movie, I thought. God, and this shot, we just found this. We're on Mariah Island, getting ready to go on the ferry to take us back to the mainland. And there was just this fishing ship that was sitting there. And we're like, oh, this is perfect. And the sun was the pretty place. And there was this awesome beach and the landscape. And we're like, you kidding me? That's the end shot of the movie. Found it. And like everything else in this movie, we just kind of found it in the moment. Always hoped for the best and did what we could. Well, thanks a lot for joining me again for a good ramble on a movie. And that's how we made this movie. I'm sure I left a lot out because there's so much that went on, but gosh, it's like another lifetime. Thanks a lot, guys. Take it easy and enjoy your soft rock. Out.